Hey guys, welcome back to the Book Haven with Rachel and Raven. We're so glad you're here today. Grab you something yummy to drink, and we're going to get this episode started. So, this month we are going to talk about, or this episode, we're going to talk about our May recap, everything that we read. So, do you want to go first, Rachel? Yeah, okay. That was super eager.
Okay. And I I do a like I think I do sound a little wonky, and it's because I have a cold. But okay, so starting off May, I started super strong and I went through so many books because we finished school, and I think I was doing like a book a day or a book every other day or something crazy. Um, but then we went out of town for pretty much like 2 weeks back to back in two different locations. And so my reading kind of took a hit. And so it kind of like leveled out for the month because I was like, oh, I'm going to blow May out of the water. Anyways, so that happened. But okay, so real quickly, I want to talk about a book that we did for school. I read to my class as kind of like a devotional book, and we technically finished it at the end of April, but it didn't make the April recap because, spoiler alerts, we film ahead of normally. We're pretty close to the end of the month this
Normally.
time. So, anyways, okay, so it is 10 questions every teen should ask and answer about Christianity. And it's Rebecca McLaughlin. Y'all have read this book, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I read it to my um, 11th graders, and my daughter's teacher did it with her class. So freshmen. I think that my kids, so being juniors, were a little too old. They thought it was kind of cheesy sometimes, but so I would gear it towards maybe like younger teens, even later teens is fine, but um she uses a lot of references about Harry, like movie references, so Harry Potter, and kind of comparing things to situations that fictional characters find themselves in, and how and trying to make that relatable, I think. So I thought it was good. Again, my classroom kids thought it was kind of cheesy, but it talks about some hard topics. So if you're looking for something to maybe read with your kids, or you have a very mature kid that has a lot of questions, you could definitely give this book to them. It talks about all of the things really, but sexual orientation, um, just different really hard topics that our kids growing up today have to kind of address and navigate through, and how to do that graciously, but also from a Christian worldview standpoint. So I just wanted to plug that one in case somebody's trying to find something for summertime ish to do with their kid. I think that would be a good one to read together as kind of a group thing. And you could just take it chapter by chapter because each chapter is a different subject matter. So it's not something that you have to sit and, go through all at one time. You could take it in chunks. So I started the month reading a book called Get Well Soon: History's Worst Plagues and Heroes, from Heroes Who Fought for Them. And it's by Jennifer Wright.
It sounds super depressing,
Let me,
actually.
let,
Why?
anyways, okay. So who knows why? Sometimes I just go down these rabbit holes. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. It's going to talk about different plagues, like the Black Plague and Spanish flu and stuff like that. And kind of just like the effects that it had on the population at the time, how it, moves history along, kind of thing. But I gave this book a 2, and that was probably being gracious because there were some parts that I did like, and she was funny, but oh my word, the political propaganda that is this book. And she wrote this book before 2020. So I would love to know like her thoughts now. And I actually did try to investigate, like, like on Twitter, like if she had posted anything. I couldn't find anything. But I will say, so it's super and I don't expect everything to be from a Christian worldview or standpoint or anything like that. Like I read a
Yeah.
lot of books that, whatever. So I'm prefacing that by saying This is not my first rodeo with a nonfiction book about weird topics. This one was so, it had so much political drive. It was insane. And I went on, and it has really good reviews, but you can find the people I think who felt the same way as me, and they all agreed that that was the reason that they rated it so low. But I was like mad when I finished this book, and
Yeah.
I didn't even want to finish it, but I was like, I'm going to finish it so I can talk about it. Um, and it was hugely disappointing. So
I'm sorry.
anyways, yes, I was very upset when I was done. It was like, no, it would have been such a great book. But there was a lot of discussion about vaccines and about, and it wasn't like just a kind, like, oh, well, there are some people that choose to not do this and whatever. It was like it kind of comes across as like you're stupid if you don't believe XYZ. Um,
Yeah.
so, anyways, okay, moving on. The next book I read was A Shadow in Moscow by Catherine Rie. I don't know how you say her name. I really liked this book. I gave it a 4. It's historical fiction, but it's about a girl during, well, it's about two, during the Cold War. So basically, one is like shortly after World War II and kind of dealing with the fallout of that. And then the other one is like in the 80s. So in the height of the Cold War situation. They're both in Moscow, and it's navigating that kind of KGB situation. I found it very interesting. So if you're looking for historical fiction that isn't World War II, because we've talked about how like heavy it is in historical fiction of World War II, this one is definitely a good one, and I would recommend trying it out. The next one we both read was The Outlaw Noblesop, which we talked about. So if you missed that podcast, you can go back and check that out. I gave that one a 5. You gave it a 4, but regardless, I think we would both recommend it if you're looking for
Yeah.
something. Riley Gaines has a new book called Swimming Against the Current. And this
I thought you did
is,
this one on Kindle.
I did.
Oh,
So
so
let,
did they send you one? Oh, exciting. Is it signed?
no, no. So I
Bummer.
I will tell the audience that I was asked through Goodreads. So this is just a plug for everyone. I had left a review for a book forever ago, and the her publisher reached out and said, "Hey, would you want to review, like read this book and leave a review? And if you leave a review, we'll send you the actual book." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I read it, and now I have the actual book. I will say that this is I gave it a 4. This would be a great book for a graduate in your life if you know they kind of like this topic and stuff. So basically she starts out and she talks about growing up, becoming a swimmer, and so she goes to college and she's a collegiate swimmer. Um very high, like Division 1 swimming. He went to the competition where very famously Leah Thomas, who is a trans woman, was swimming in the sport. And she was directly affected by that. Like it was her, two of her races, she was swimming against him. And so she talks about that. She talks about kind of the repercussions of that because now she's very much in the political activist world and a speaking events and talks to different colleges. And, anyways, so now she's super engaged like that. But it kind of talks about how, like, what happened from that race standpoint and then how she kind of got into this political activism. It also talks about how she went to go speak out of college and kind of got trapped there by protesters and like very scary situation. She talks about that. So this is great. And the like people that recommend this book are Jordan B. Peterson, Caitlyn Jenner, Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson. Like they all did blurbs on the back for it. So this is a really good one if you have, and the reason why I think I would recommend it for like a teen girl who's about to go off in the world is she really stresses the importance of standing up for yourself and knowing, like kind of like knowing that this is wrong and I need to speak up. Even if nobody else
Right.
is, I need to speak up
Mhm.
for it. Because she talks a lot in there about, not a lot, but she talks about how, like, none of the, like, her coaches or even her dad, like nobody was really stepping in saying like, hey, this is, these are girls. And like nobody was standing up for them. They really had to stand up for themselves and kind of were left out, hung out to dry of like, okay, well, we can't be associated with you if that's the stance that you're going to take on it. So I highly recommend this one for older teen girls. I mean, there's nothing in here that's inappropriate, but I just mean for them to get the full she's trying to give out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I I liked that one. Okay, then the next one I read was called Hill Women, and it's finding family and a way forward in the Appalachian Mountains. So I will say, and this is Cassie Chambers. And again, this is exactly what happened with the plague book. I start reading it thinking it's going to be one thing, and it totally shifted and is not what I thought it was going to be. So again, I gave it 2 stars. My family is from the hill country of Kentucky. Um, I thought, oh, this is going to be so cool to read about people, that were basically very similar to like how my family before they moved away. This book is not that. This book is kind of it takes the stance of hillbilly elegy. Is it
Yeah.
elegy? Okay.
Yeah.
Um if you haven't read that one, that's a great biography to read. His is about, I can't remember where he was raised, but kind of an Appalachian, very
Yeah.
poor, and how he kind of got out of that. You also have Educated, which is about a girl who is a very poverty situation and then gets out of it. Um, I didn't even know that book was, or this book, Hill Women, was trying to play off of that, but I will say she did a horrific job. So I put in here, it caught me off guard how much political stuff she had in there. So she ended up having like a few stories about her family. And then the rest of the book, she spent pretty much dogging them and about how basically they don't know any better. How women are treated so poorly, and just on and on and on and on and on about how just she's so much better than them is what it comes across as. I don't know if she meant
Yeah.
for it to be that way. um so in looking up her story, she is a Democratic senator in I think it's in Kentucky, um but somewhere over there. And so this is definitely, you can, knowing that and looking back, I'm like, okay, she was making her political views known in this book going forward. I just didn't know that it was going to be that, and I was hugely upset again. So I had two really bombs of books that really kind of irked me. Okay, then
Yeah.
I told y'all in the maybe the summer book thing that I was going to try to get through some C.S. Lewis. So I read The Abolition of Man. It is so well done, obviously, and because it's C.S. Lewis, and he it kind of is a stance on about how when you take like morals out of society, kind of what's going to happen from the fallout. This is not even, he doesn't talk about God. He kind of just refers to a like broad sense of people having morals. So this isn't even really a religious book kind of pointing you to God, or defending God or anything like that. It's literally just saying if we take the morals out of society, like this is probably where it's going to go. And I will tell you that most of the stuff he said, if not all, is happening right now. So it was a very good read. I really recommend that one. And it's very, very short.
Yeah.
So
It is.
the last book that I finished this month was called Where the Lost Wander, and it is Amy Harmon. Amy Harmon is the one that wrote The Outlaw Noble Salt. She's also written,
Oh, I was thinking of a different book.
no,
But yeah, you're right.
she also wrote What the Wind Knows.
What the Wind Knows. Yeah.
Okay. So I gave this one a 3. This one is about a family that goes on the Oregon Trail and they're trying to get out to like California. So they're doing this trail, and kind of like what happens along the way. It is very sad, and there's some good qualities in the book, but they there was several open door romance scenes that I could have done without. And we kind of talked about that in the Outlaw Noble Salt, that there
Yeah.
was some stuff and it kind of made sense. And she could have done that with this one, and this one is written before the Noble Salt one. But she could have done that with this one and maybe pulled back just a little bit more, but I will say this one is definitely more rated R. There are more scenes where she describes in detail what's happening, and it lasted a little too long for me. So just know that going into it, if you decide to read it. I thought the storyline was interesting, and again, she pulled from family history, which I think is very interesting. I don't know if all of her books are pulled from family history in some way, but this one was like she had her husband's grandfather or something, I can't remember, but some sort of family tie of to this story. And then she took real people and kind of built this pretend story on top of the framework of real people, just like she
Hmm.
did. So she definitely has like a way she does things and stuff. But again, the story is very sad, and because the Oregon Trail was very sad. um but there's a reason why you didn't really make it to the end of the computer game when you played it in school. But I could not get on board with the romance scenes.
Yeah.
It just felt very like ew. So, and then the very last thing that I'm going to talk about, and maybe I should save this, as this will kind of be into my like what I'm enjoying right now, and then I'll turn it over to you. But the book that I just took on vacation, we went to the beach, is A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventures. Okay. I am not done with it, and this is why I'm not like reviewing it. This is how far I got. Because it turns out reading and trying to watch my children in the ocean was a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And I will tell you, this book has suffered the consequences of like being outside. So this is kind of like steampunky, I guess, which is not like, I don't normally do those genres, but it takes place in 1860, and it's about so many things. But basically, this girl is going on an adventure to find her grandfather, who's leaving clues for her along the way. So it's like this gigantic scavenger hunt, but they're traveling all over the world and going to different places. And the reason why I wanted to make sure and talk about it, even though I haven't finished it, is that I think it's a super fun read for summer because she's going to so many different places and kind of, getting to
Yeah.
travel without you having to travel. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It has taken a while. The main character can be kind of annoying sometimes, but I think we finally turned the corner from that, and I'm 150 pages in.
Yay.
But I just thought it's fun, and if you're looking for something about traveling and whatever, I would maybe recommend this book, because again, I'm not done, but come
That's
along on the
cool.
journey with me. So anyways,
Very
okay,
fun.
I'm done.
Okay, so I was going to comment on the Riley Gaines book because we actually got to see her last summer and
Yes.
hear her story, but like see her in person and hear her story from her mouth. And she is such an incredible person.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm just going to throw that out there. And then also I get to see her next weekend too. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Um,
She's very well spoken. And that's why I think I put in my
she
review
is
on Goodreads. Like, this is somebody who I would totally encourage my daughter. Not that we should be putting anybody on a pedestal, but like
correct.
she's a really good role model to look to. And she's married and has kids now. Just I don't know. It was a really good, encouraging book, I think.
Very cool. So I will start with the devotional that we finally finished, and it's Trial and Triumph. This book is just like an overview of church history and people who have stood for the faith through like from the beginning. And it took us a long time, but not because it wasn't good. It's just as we used to do this in our morning basket, and we would just read one story at a time. However, the older your kids get, the harder it gets to do the morning basket. I know some
Hmm.
people stick with it and they're really successful with it, but it's been really difficult for us. So We finished it. Yay.
Yay.
It took us a couple of years, but we finished. But we finished it. And I would highly recommend it. It's very good.
What ages would you recommend?
I mean, it talks about death in here. And I
Yeah.
know that I started this probably when like we would pick it up and then put it down. And I had started it with Katie probably in third grade.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
it is pretty graphic, but
Okay.
um I don't know. We don't shy away from those things when
Yeah.
it's real life people. I definitely don't shy away from that. We read the hard stuff and cry about it.
Yeah.
um and talk through it. So, but yeah, definitely use your judgment. But if you want something even just for yourself, just for personal reading, if you want to add something to your like Bible time or whatever, this would be a good one because the stories are pretty short and I don't know, they're just very faith building. And actually it goes all the way through. So like from the beginning so it's like, let me just talk about this for a second. Early church, persecution in the early church, Middle Ages, Reformation, post-Reformation, modern missions, and then recent times. So,
Hmm.
yeah, C.S. Lewis is one of the ones in here that they talk about.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay. And then I read Mark Sullivan, All the Glimmering Stars.
I'm so sorry. I
And
can't talk about it with you yet. I
oh, you haven't finished it, right?
haven't even started it.
Okay. Well, 5 stars, it's good.
So you could,
um,
I mean, you could talk about it. I was hoping that I'd be able to talk about it with you.
Yeah, so it's a story of Anthony and Florence O'Cory. O'Cory. Um, and they're like coming of age story, but they're kidnapped by the Lord's Resistance Army and they're forced to serve in the Lord's Resistance Army. I think he was at 12 at the time when he was taken, maybe a little bit older. But these are like real people who are alive today who lived through these horrible, horrible things. Um, and their outlook on life is just really, really remarkable. Because I don't know, like they went through some really, really difficult stuff. And I don't know, it's just a beautiful story of survival and redemption. And yes, I did go down the rabbit hole because there are some like I don't know, these are people that I probably would be in my top 5. Like I would love to meet them and
Very
shake their
cool.
hand and
Yeah.
yeah, talk to them. But I love any type of story. And if you know, we've talked about Mark Sullivan a lot. Um, I mean, he has definitely found his
Stride. Yeah.
way. Yeah, he definitely has. And I just think he's done a really good job. He did a really great job with this story. Okay. I also read 1984 and I never want to read it again. So there's that. Have you read
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've read it. It's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
something.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm with
So
you. Like I'm glad I read it, but I don't like I would never go back and read it again.
it was just so, I was so creeped out.
Yeah.
And like, I'm glad I read it, yes, but I never want to read it again. So
Yeah.
that is that. And if you don't know, look up the blurb. I don't want to revisit that one. It's that creepy. And then I also started just for fun, reading again, Nobody's Cuter Than You, by
Yes.
Melanie Shankle, because we talked about it for the summer read, and the summer read episode that we did. Okay, I also read, I did this on audio, so I don't have the physical one. Tending Roses by Lisa Wingate. Lisa Wingate is the one who also wrote Before We Were Yours.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Before We Were Yours.
And the Book of Lost Friends.
Yes, so she wrote Before We Were Yours. This one is kind of a more like it's set in today's time frame.
Hmm.
And it's just a story of, again, I don't know why I keep picking up these types of stories, but it's a story of family
Hmm.
drama and just healing within the family, but also, I don't know, like holding to uh the old ways, like the family traditions and things like that,
Mhm.
and not running the race of life.
Hmm.
There's healing in this book, and it's good. I don't remember what I rated it exactly, but it's good. It was not, to me, it was not on the level of Before We Were Yours or the Book of Lost Friends, but it was okay. But on that note, we are going to get to meet Lisa
I
Wingate
know.
in June. So
Yeah.
that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Fun times. And she has a new book, I think.
Yes.
We get a new book, right? We get
Yes.
the book.
I think it's the Shelterwood or something. Like it's something shelter something or another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm interested. I haven't looked up to see what it was about, but I'm excited to
yeah,
get to meet an author. It's always
I
fun to do
know.
that. So okay, making sure I'm not missing any. Okay. And then of course I read Noble Salt with you. Okay, my last one that I read was Primal Wound, Understanding the Adopted Child. I started this a long time ago, and I'm not gonna lie, it's can be very boring at times. Um, but as someone who was adopted, this book was very validating to me, and I felt very seen. She's not anti-adoption; she's very pro-adoption, but she writes it from she's an adoptive parent, so she writes it from that point of view, which I appreciated. But
Hmm.
she doesn't shy away from like the true experience that is being an adopted child. She does address it more from like being adopted at birth, but there she does talk about if you're an older child, which was my story. I was an older adopted child.
Yeah.
So, very good. You can also look her up on YouTube and hear she gives talks and things like that. I think I gave this one a 4. I might have given it a 3, just because it could be very boring. So
Okay. All right. I
we have,
talked way too long, obviously, with my books.
no, you're good.
So do you
I
want
didn't
my
realize you read that much.
I could have read more. Could have read more. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. And this, a reminder, this is our last episode of this season, quote unquote. We will take the month of June off from posting, and then we're going to come back in July with so many good
So much.
episodes. So
We
much.
have really big ambition here.
We do. We have a lot of fun and exciting and really informative podcasts lined up for when we come back. So we're really looking forward to that. So over June, you can go back and listen to all of the ones that you missed or didn't get a chance to listen to or thought you had. I've done that before. And if you're looking for summer reading recommendations, you can go back and listen to the podcast that we did. With all of the recommendations. And if you are looking for your kids or for you or whatever, we really have done, I didn't count it up, but we really have done so many recommendation books that I'm running out of books to recommend. So
Never.
yes, I know, but we can pretend like there's a stopping point. So anyways, okay, so we hope all of y'all have a wonderful summer. Thank you so much for spending time with us every week this year. It's been really fun and a big learning curve. So hopefully we'll come back to the new season looking totally different as far as like as far as the setup and stuff like that. So we're looking forward to it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. We are here today to talk about all things. No, scratch that. Marker.
Yeah.
Okay.